good thing is if this cuts out, then the computer will let me know. But
yeah.
Here we go. All right, Miss Mal, how have you been? Your time away from time. You're back now.
I mean, it's been so long. I feel like the listeners just thought I never came back from Vegas.
That's
I mean, it's been good. I went to Vegas. I came home. I quarantined for 2 weeks.
Yep, there you go.
I've been busy with work, trying to figure out this car situation. It's stressful, but that's okay.
It's an unfortunate evil.
Huh?
It's an unfortunate evil. You need to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just stressful because I don't like doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I played a little bit of video games this week.
Okay,
because
there you go.
Been getting a little colder and been super, super busy.
Right.
So I got Calamity, Age of Calamity, Hyrule Warriors. Which,
there you go.
I mean, it's good. Yeah, it's good. I love that. I love Hyrule Warriors. It's probably one of my favorite side games.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fun. The mechanics are different in this one, and they added a lot of Breath of the Wild mechanics, which is a little flaky, but it'll work itself out. I'm sure it's just because it's a new game, and they added so much that I feel it's clanky.
Right.
Just because I didn't really play Breath of the Wild either. I mainly watched my sister play it.
Mm-hmm.
So, getting to know those people are different. But then there's another game, it's My Little Nightmare, that I actually thought about talking to you about, because they're making a second one.
Yeah,
but I don't know if you...
I played the first one. That's a good game, so definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, because I bought it, and I love it, but I'm into, dark humor and dark things as it is.
Yeah.
Not that people can tell that from anything.
Right.
But, I've been loving it. I love the aesthetic. It's all very, very dark, but it's very, light tones, too, because of the character. So, the background and stuff, there's certain things that just make it so, so good.
Right.
I spend more time, looking around than I do actually playing the game in each area, so that's been fun.
Yeah.
And then I got Space Invaders, the new one. They released it on Switch.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even know there was a new one.
Invaders Forever.
Nice.
Yeah, it's Space Invaders Forever, and I'm a major Space Invaders fan, so I've been playing that. It's not like the original, so that's been kind of making me mad, but it's fun. So, and then other than that, I've been reading. I started the 8 Mile by Stephen King.
Oh, cool.
No, the Green Mile. The Green Mile. Sorry, not the 8 Mile. The Green Mile.
Okay, there you go.
The Green Mile by Stephen King, which has been awesome. I love that movie when I was younger, but then, and I read the book a couple of times, but I just restarted it because I was I got my new copy. So I've been reading The Green Mile. Yeah, that's been about my life. How have you been?
I've been good. Why is it me already? People listening might ask, because I don't know. God knows where the fuck John's been, and Chiro is asleep, a room away, but asleep. So that's a thing. So it's just us two for now. Today, probably. Who knows anymore? I'm just gonna address it now. We're gonna make an official statement on John soon. We'll see what happens, but we're gonna go from there. I think, if I'm being transparent, it's not looking good, but we'll see. we'll just go from there. Not that kind of like not looking good, like too negative as far as I know. Just not looking good in terms of him being here anymore. So we'll see. Just to avoid speculation, I think I'd just rather address that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as me though, pretty good. Just been binging a lot of Ghost Adventure still. Gotten all caught up. There's a new episode actually, so now I'm not caught up as we're recording this. But just rewatching, rebinging it all. Even though there's a lot of stuff I need to watch, it's just one of those shows I just like to have on in the background. Recently played and beat down in Bermuda during our time away from here. It's basically a really cute puzzle game. I mean, each level does a pretty good job of testing your patience and then like actually how perceptive you are. It's definitely not a game for everybody because it can get quite difficult depending on how good you are solving things and like seeing things in the background. It's kind of like hiding in plain sight in front of you sometimes. Some of the puzzles, and you just got to kind of think for a bit and not just get too frustrated. But it's pretty good though. I also started playing because I saw Pat was playing it, so I recently started playing Bug Fables. Something. I forgot what the subtitle is, but it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, the Everlasting Sapling or something like that. But basically, it plays and looks a lot like Paper Mario. It's very Paper Mario inspired, but it's bugs instead. Cute bugs instead of ugly real bugs. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I didn't get too far into it. I do need to play more. I did the thing like I always do where I just overload myself by buying way too many games, and then I never actually play any of them. But I was happy to be down in Bermuda, so I just got to really just stop having gaming ADD and like really focus on just one. But that's been pretty good. And then finally, just a few days ago, it's going to be almost a week by the time this episode drops, or will be almost a week by the time this episode drops. But Crosscode is an RPG I've had my eye on for a while. Apparently it's pretty good. Only $20, so pick it up if you want to, but it looks really nice. Kind of like JRPG, very heavily influenced by that with some more kind of combo action combat, so kind of cool. Good stuff. But that's pretty much it, primarily, at least as far as I can remember. That's been the main stuff. Other than that, just the usual monotonous nonsense of work and everything that no one ever wants to hear about, so we skip over that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You can find... Oh, fuck, I don't remember anyone's plugs. I was going to try to do their plugs for them remotely, but I guess not. Oh, well, you can find them by listening to previous episodes. And Mallory, where can everybody find your stuff on the internet?
You can find me at Awesome Mally on Instagram. It's awesome_Mally. Don't just type in Awesome Mally because that's a whole other person.
There you go.
And we found that out together, so that's cool. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram.
There you go. Instagram it is. You can find all my stuff at ZD Rocker at all the places, as well as SlimAsianEntertainment.com, and where you probably are listening to this at DisconnectedCast.com. So there we go. What's going on in the news? CD Projekt Red, despite being an awful company, has recently been hacked. It's one of those things where I kind of have like... I want to have empathy because no one deserves to like be hacked or like have like their... well-being taken away, essentially, because a lot of these hackers were taking like source code and everything and all this stuff that these developers worked hard on. I kind of think two ways about it. There's the conspiracy theorist way to look at it, which, I mean, it's also not the most absurd thing, I think, to assume at this point, just because they've been such a bad company about transparency and dealing with the issues with Cyberpunk, that this is almost like a... they want to shift themselves from being the predator to the victim. So I feel like there's a small chance, but I almost feel like they could do this as a publicity stunt to seem like a victim all of a sudden. That way it off-shifts the fact that they just ripped everybody off with an incomplete, broken game. I mean, that one, I think people might think that's reading too far into it, but at this point, I don't count anything scumbaggy outside of CD Projekt's realm at this point. Despite that, though, it really does look like this actually could just be retaliation from upset fans, just because, there's really, disappointed with how the game was handled and how it came out, that they're just kind of doing this as like a revenge thing, which I still don't think is necessarily justified, but it is still believable that some disgruntled fans are going out of their way to cause them hell, basically. The source code for Gwent has been leaked, and apparently... they have their hands on some other stuff, and they're kind of going on auction in the dark web, allegedly. I think it's funny when people report stuff on the dark web or on the black market, because I thought the whole point of those type of places is that it's not trackable. You don't really just find it, you know? So I find it funny when they say stuff like that. But, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I don't want it to seem like I'm justifying that happening to anybody, but at this point, they have really stirred the pot quite a bit, so I guess this was just inevitable that something like that would happen.
Yeah.
Or
you know how crazy it is that like they can use conspiracy theories on this and like it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where it just kind of worked out that way. But
like I'm a big conspiracy theory person. Like I love reading them and I love watching and learning about them. But like sometimes you're just like that's not true.
Yeah,
but, like it makes sense for this case.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. They've since apologized about it, but I mean, in my opinion, I don't know. He's not necessarily wrong, but the director of Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Ori and the Blind Forest, great, indie development that's kind of been picked up by Microsoft, so it's like a semi-indie kind of studio, but they recently made claims, or they went on a rant essentially, where they called Hello Games that made No Man's Sky, CD Projekt Red, and Cyberpunk, as well as Peter Molyneux and his several endeavors that just didn't quite live up to the hype. Jeez, I can't talk. This is what happens when we record early. But basically, they've called them out and said, you guys are snake oil. Oh my god, I cannot talk. Snake oil salesmen. And that, you all are basically just overhyping games to, make people get FOMO and not want to, or not want to wait for reviews or anything, and they'll just hope that people are just going to buy these games based on merit and hype. And, people have criticized them, and they have since apologized for it, but in my opinion, I don't think they're entirely wrong. I think that making artificial hype or not being able to deliver to whatever you promise is a negative thing, and I think that people should be called out for that kind of stuff. Even if you have studios like Hello Games that turned around No Man's Sky, that should not be the industry standard. That should have been the one faux pas, and then we kind of move on from there and don't do games like that anymore. But the fact that people saw that as an opportunity, and we've seen Destiny, Anthem, Cyberpunk, and several other games trying to go that route where they're just like, we'll make a half-baked game and fix it later and everyone will be fine with it, that shouldn't be the industry standard, and it's starting to. And I think that people are calling out their peers, because peer-to-peer accountability is just one of the best ways to go about it, because when you see someone that you regard above you, or you see someone that you regard below you, not that you should ever look at people that way, but when you do, you tend to listen to people more or less depending on. But when it comes to people that are in your situation or your peers, you tend to listen to them a bit more, because you feel like they probably have more real feedback, and input to something that you're involved with. If they kind of do what you do, then they should know. So I think that people, their fellow devs calling them out like this is a good thing, even though, people give shit about it.
I mean, I like it because, especially from, like, just a working standpoint, if you don't call out those things, it just gets worse, basically.
Yes.
So, and with the trend that we're seeing, like, this, Ari's games, they put out a really good product every single time.
Yep.
Like, I love it. So the fact that they put out a really good game, and then other people are putting out these shitty half-assed games.
Yeah.
It kind of like they have pride for their work. Does that make sense? So like Ari has pride for their work. They put out the game the way, like all the way done. They don't need to fix very much.
Yeah.
But they take that pride, and it's just kind of like. It's like a slap in the face, kind of, that you would assume that this is the right way to go when you've seen it so many times that it's not. And so, just for me, like, if I see somebody hard work that, I know I do, like, I'm willing to give criticism and stuff like that, not negative, not harsh criticism, but, constructive criticism.
Right.
But I do think it's important to do that, because if not, your product will eventually, be labeled with these others, and even though your quality is great, you know, it goes into that whole big old mess of what is a good video game.
Exactly, and the thing we've seen over time is you have these AAA studios like Rockstar, like CD Projekt, and everything that just are notorious. Well, okay, so let me split that up real quick. Rockstar's notorious for crunch. CDPR is too, but it wasn't really pulled out into this until this certain case that they really pointed it out. And the reason that people are calling them out on it, not that it's justified just because you admit it at the front that you're a piece of shit. That still doesn't mean you should do it. Everyone has their terms for it, like Rockstar Magic or whatever, and that doesn't just because you admit it doesn't necessarily mean it's okay to do. And with CDPR, they even lied about it because they basically were just like, oh yeah, we're not going to crunch, and then they basically kind of like wanted to pin it on the fans because fans were anticipating it, where they were just like, okay, well, we're going to have to crunch now if you want it by X day. And, sadly, the crunch would have just been ignored if the game had ended up being phenomenal as promised, which is a sad thing to know. But in a way, it's almost good that it failed because this is just another studio that deserves to be, called out like that. So,
yeah.
I like I said, I see where people come from a professional standpoint where people are just like, well, it's not right for you to call people out. Like, yeah, but it's also not right for these people to, like, rip other people off, especially during this pandemic. A lot of people have had more limited funds. Some people, of course, have gained funds. It just depends on your financial situation. And because of this, you end up running into a hole where people really worked hard for this, and if the people who even intended to work on the game didn't bother, then it's not right to kind of feel like you're owed credit from the consumer and be pissed off about this bad reaction when you basically rip these people off. So
yeah,
but we can harp on that all day. Like I said, my personal opinion, I get it. It wasn't very professional of that studio to call them out, but at the same time, they weren't wrong. So it's just peer-to-peer accountability as far as I'm concerned. Very harsh.
I agree with them calling them out.
Like, yep, definitely.
And then from my standpoint, like if I see something wrong, I'm gonna call it out.
Yep, and that's how it should be, especially in the workplace. If you're trying to be productive and you see that something's not working right, just transparency is usually the best way to go. And that's funny that in CDPR's, like one of the CEOs or the CEO or whatever, one of the top guys, statement where he was kind of explaining stuff about where Cyberpunk's going to go from here and what happened. Kept no accountability to himself, of course, even though he's the big boss. And then on top of that, kept using the term transparency, which ironically was not evident at all in any of, the things that have happened with Cyberpunk. So it's just one of those type of things where he felt like if he said it enough times, it would become reality, which is obviously not true.
Yeah, it's a buzzword.
Yeah, basically. Exactly. Use it as a buzzword. So... moving on, in a move that's not entirely, and that we didn't see this coming, of course, and then at the same time, isn't quite the end yet, but I think it's very telling of where everything's going. Google has announced that they are shutting down their internal studios for Stadia. So their Montreal and Los Angeles gaming studios for Stadia are being shut down. The funny thing is, these two studios haven't made one game yet for the Stadia, and they're already being shut down.
No!
This is, of course, going to leave 150 devs unemployed, or at least with nothing to do right now until they find another job, because they invested with Stadia. So we're just it's just such a bad look. But basically what Google's trying to do now, and I see what they're trying to do from a PR perspective, is that they're pulling out their internal studio so they don't have to pay those people, but they're going to use whatever reasoning. And then what they're going to do is, they said that the Stadia is not done, it's just that they're going to leave all the developing and the fate of it from here into the third-party developers' hands. Well, if you're a third-party developer, and whether you're as big as Bethesda or you're a smaller studio like Platinum, why would you want to risk making a game for a platform that is scared itself that it shut down its own studios because it doesn't see it being profitable, obviously? Whatever reason they're going to give for why they're shutting down their internal studios, you would not shut those down if they were making money. But the fact that they saw the writing on the wall so badly for Stadia that they're willing to shut down their internal studios and say, oh, well, I mean, it's not dead. We're just letting everyone else do the work, essentially. It's just like, it's, that's assuming developers will now want to invest in the Stadia still, which I think we all know where that's going to go.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time, I think, till Stadia officially shuts down. Obviously, we kind of just saw this coming, that it wasn't going to last that long to begin with. But this is such a shitty last-ditch effort to try to save face by kind of at the end be like, well, it's because no one wanted to make games for us. It's kind of like with the Wii U, for example. Not just that console marketed poorly, is why Nintendo almost went bankrupt because of it, but the other thing that didn't help is that third-party developers were not making games for it, but it's not that Nintendo themselves aren't established or that the system itself wasn't, I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it had an interesting idea, and if it had just been marketed better and sold better, then third-party developers would have seen the money in it, which is kind of what happened with the Switch. The Switch was marketed quite a bit better. The console itself made more sense, despite seeing like a sci-fi thing, which I still can barely believe the Switch works the way it does. But you know, it was one of those things where it's like it was you could see the beginning of where that issue was caused with the third-party developers not wanting to work with it. With Stadia, you saw some developers were making games for it. You were going to see ports like Destiny, Mortal Kombat. So there were these big games that were going to come to it. But that was because at the time, Google was really selling it like this could really work. Now that they're pulling out their own people and telling the other people that don't even work for them, hey, but like, you know, you guys can still keep doing stuff. It doesn't give you good faith when the person when the internals don't even have faith in it or aren't showing any faith in it, basically. So I just see that third-party developers, any title that's been announced for Stadia, I'm fairly sure that isn't out yet is probably going to get canceled. And then the Stadia will just have a death in the end, and Google's just hoping it'll be a quiet death. But this is not the move that a company makes whenever they have faith or think that what they're doing is going to be successful. So,
yeah. Good
on them. Not that the Stadia seemed like it was ever going to work. I mean, playing games with that much latency, it's just, I don't know, there's just, nothing replaces just actually playing the game. Like the Switch, for example, they have 2 cloud-based games now. They have Control, Ultimate Edition, and Hitman 3. The way that works is, because the Switch does have its technical limitations, what they do is they try to take the stress off of the system by, like Netflix or anything else, like how you stream stuff. They basically have all the assets and everything running on a much powerful system, probably a computer, in a remote location somewhere that's running the game, and you're basically remotely playing the game from the Switch. So the Switch is basically just your control. It's like whether you play a cloud game on your phone with xCloud or on the PC and you're using any cloud-based service when you're not actually downloading the game onto your system. It allows you to do more with it because the console itself runs at 1080 docked 720 handheld. So if you're basically running a 1080p or higher game and you're downscaling it to, to get out of all that, gobbledygook. But basically, it allows the Switch to run stuff that looks way better than what it normally could. The problem is, because I did try the Control one out. The one thing I will say, though, is that even though the input lag isn't as awful as you did see on the Stadia, the Stadia is very inconsistent. Sometimes it would react right away, sometimes it wouldn't. But it still doesn't replace the response and the quality of the game that's actually being played on your actual console. There's a minute difference between stuff that's installed on your SD card and the internal memory. Obviously, anything on an internal solid-state drive will always be a little bit faster in loading and reaction time, etc. But it's very minimally noticeable because technically it's both flash memory still. But when you're running stuff through an internet connection on another thing, there's just going to naturally be, when you're playing that remotely from anything, there's going to be that natural input lag. And that will always be bothersome, especially when the whole console relies on it. At least with Nintendo, they're just dipping their feet in this and doing a couple of games that obviously would probably never run on Switch and just try to do it that way. So at least you have an option to try to play it. Of course, like many people have pointed out, it causes the console to technically not really be portable then because you need a consistently good internet connection, which would mean that you're probably always going to be at home with it. But, it's at least something they tried instead of Stadia, who went all in on this concept and then couldn't deliver. So, sucks for the developers that are out of a job now, but that's also just Google poorly handling anything. Plus, You know, they have that Google Graveyard website or whatever it's called, where you've seen all the stuff that Google has tried that lasts anywhere from months to just a couple of years that dies right away. Google does not have the best track record for starting something and supporting it. So there was also, the writing was on the wall since the beginning. Weird thing that randomly surfaced. So here in the States, where we're from, my Steam account alone, I own like 800 something games, where like I almost own like 1,000 games on PC, just through Steam. You know, if you count Origin and God knows what else that I don't really normally use, I own probably well over 100. But on Steam, I mean well over 1,000. On Steam alone, I own 853 games. Someone recently posted a screenshot. China's known for its censorship, and it's kind of like very just corrupt government and wanting people to just... China kind of wants to live in this world where they're kind of force-feed, where everything is like, you know, push all the Chinese movies, push all the Chinese video games, push the, you know, they're basically trying to remove as much external influence. They like to have the country be everything China in the country, and because of that, I don't know if it was always like this, or if this is just something that recently surfaced where they've just removed a bunch of games from the Steam store. There are currently only 53 games in China's Steam library. If that's like any game you can buy, there's 53 of them. I own 800 more games than exist in the Chinese Steam market. So, it's really weird. Again, when you look at there with the big games being Dota 2 and Counter-Strike, those are games that are very big competitively in Asia, especially alongside StarCraft and whatever, but that's not on there, of course. That's in Blizzard's own shop. So, but the whole thing is like, that's the only thing that really is. And if you look at the other stuff, it's kind of hard to tell because I don't read Chinese, but you just saw like 51 other games that are just like, that's it. When the person did show all games in the store, that like, through Steam, you would go through hundreds of windows, but through China's shop, you could just see it all in one screenshot. It all fit on one screenshot. So,
oh, wow.
Yep. It's a little scary. Again, China's a little crazy about that kind of stuff, but it is what it is. And sucks to be a Steam user over there, because you're probably just having to, you know, bootleg or sideload your games through your PC, because, you know, you want more options, obviously. One thing I didn't know about the Borderlands movie is that it's got a pretty stacked staff. The movie itself is going to be directed by Eli Roth, so you've got a big-name director who does kind of like crazy films where you could see him doing a Borderlands movie. And then to the cast, they've already added Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Kevin Hart, and they recently announced the other day that they're also going to be adding Jack Black, who's going to voice Claptrap. So that'll be very interesting. They're definitely going hard on the namesake, you know, name power. That poster is going to look really good, but we'll see how it actually is. I feel like a Borderlands movie is still quite the crazy task to take on. So, yeah, you know, we'll kind of just see where that goes. But interesting.
I can't even picture that in my head right now, so...
Yeah, I just didn't know that there was going to be that there was already those many big names attached to it, so...
Yeah.
Interesting. Speaking of interesting, this is not something I'm sure where to take a stance on as far as this goes, but 11 years ago, God, that seems so long ago, but it's funny when you hear the year, it didn't seem like it was that long ago, but 11 years ago, Konami was working on a game called 6 Days in Fallujah. Sorry if I fuck up that pronunciation, but it's basically based on a real-life story of the Second Battle of Fallujah, which was, you know, in 2004, it was like a really controversial urban attack that happened during the Iraq War that a lot of people kind of questioned the morality of that attack that day, if it was really just, you know, or if it was essentially a war crime. But, yeah, I don't want to get into the political side of it, but that's essentially, it's hard not to without, you know, kind of stepping into what the context is about. So due to a lot of backlash and people saying, yo, this isn't a really good idea to make a game about a really bad event that no one's really comfortable with that happened, so Konami, of course, canceled the game, and that was 11 years ago. Our publisher Victura and developer Highwire Games are actually reviving the project and will be releasing the game that Konami was too afraid and probably made the right decision to cancel. So coming later on in PC and consoles later in 2021, we're going to see the much canceled game 6 Days in Fallujah actually come to the public. So we'll see how that ends up going over. But Konami basically didn't... not that I really trust Konami's judgment when it comes to making video games, but in this particular sense, I feel like there's going to be a lot of political controversy depending on how they portray which side, whether it's the civilians or the military force in that game, because, the people involved in that and the countries involved in that conflict are not really seen in a good light for doing that. So,
yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it could just be a publicity stunt because they know that this game's going to get all the attention to begin with, just because it was like kind of like Hatred, this really edgy game that ended up not being that good. You get the attention when you get the controversy, so it just could be what they're going for is where they know people will at least try it, and it's just maybe to get their names out there, but it also could be in a bad situation if it doesn't end up going over well. It could be the end of the studio and publisher, so we'll see.
We'll see.
Yep. People that can't be trusted, EA, of course, they're going... So, after EA and BioWare have kind of said that, the whole plan was to, have faith in us, trust us, we're going to fix Anthem, we're going to do a whole relaunch, it's basically going to be the game we wanted since the beginning, we just need time. They have already announced that this week, which will probably already be the week that is over by the time you guys are hearing this, the little problem with, but we'll report on the follow-up with it. But Anthem's fate will be decided this week. I mean, let's just face it, it's probably just going to be canceled. I feel like the reason that EA and BioWare may have done it this way, as opposed to the way CDPR was never going to cancel Cyberpunk, but I feel like it's kind of a shady tactic where EA's hoping, and now that the game's been out for so long, they can basically just be like, hey, we cut support towards the end, even though they've technically not even provided the game that they promised in the beginning. And so, basically, they're going to kind of, I think, try to... They still could get hit with a class action lawsuit, but my whole thing is I think they're going to try to play it off and be like, oh, we just canceled the game that was out for so long already that we just, because it's almost been 2 years. So it's one of those... Or it has been 2 years. So it's one of those things where it's just like, basically like, well, yeah, we had this game out for 2 years and we just cut support. I mean, it's natural. That happens to games and servers. Yeah, that happens to games and servers that work and it's just not financially profitable to keep the servers alive. But it's not really in this thing where a game was promised for over a year that it's going to be fixed. It's going to be rebooted. Yeah. It's going to be... That should already be the fate. But see, I said it in one of our episodes a long time ago where it's just like, just cut your losses, say it's fucking canceled, refund everybody, who cares? Like... They see that it's not worth the money, but they just wanted to go this route, I think, to get away with it, to avoid doing a mass refund. Even though this basically was their plan from the get-go, was fuck dumping any more money into this. Because that's the thing I kept saying, it doesn't make any sense. The game is not being played by as many people, the game is not going to make enough money to make it worth redoing this whole fucking game, and the manpower and the time it would take to do so. So, fuck them, that's probably the scam that they're trying to do. So, fuck it. Speaking of fuck it, the CW's The Flash skin is coming to Fortnite this week. Yay. That's that's important. That's good. That's good news. Good news. And then Sonic the Hedgehog, just a little teaser. There's nothing really happens in it, but it's basically just to confirm the release window that they're aiming for, and just the fact that it is going to happen, because a lot of people weren't sure, because the studio that worked on the graphical side of Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu, that studio is kaput now, due to unfortunate financial struggles, but they say it's still happening, so hopefully it'll be good. Again, I always tell people, is the Sonic the Hedgehog movie amazing? No, but it's a good, dumb Sonic movie that works, and I liked it. They did. It just shows that it is happening. Surprise, surprise! It's going to be called Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I know that no one saw that coming. I just think it's funny that they announced it like that. We're confirming the title, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it's just like, yeah, no shit. Okay. And it's going to be coming out April 2022. So don't hold your breath, because you got over a year still till it comes out. But hopefully it'll be good as long as they do it right. There's been rumors that Jason Momoa has been approached to play Knuckles, and I think that would be a really good decision. I don't know who voices Tails, but I'm fairly sure it's a prominent person I'm just ignoring. And Tails, we already got to hear what Tails sounds like. Oh, spoiler! You get to hear what Tails sounds like at the end of the first movie. So, there's that. Yay. The Medium, it was a game that we saw a trailer from a long time ago that you just haven't been here, so I don't even know if you remember that trailer. But there's a game that recently came out called The Medium. It's a psychological horror game. It looked pretty cool. I'm assuming it's a Western studio game because I think it's got heavy involvement with Xbox, or that's just Xbox's really good marketing. That always makes you think that because their commercials always show an Xbox logo at the end, even if it's not exclusive. But I believe it's on Game Pass, I think. That's what John was saying. So if that's the case, definitely play it if you have Game Pass. But it looks like it might actually be worth an actual purchase as well. So do show some love and support if you end up thinking you'll like it, because it looks pretty good. And it's already announced that it's been profitable after just a few days after launch. So obviously this article came out a little while ago. But just a few days after launch, it's already hit profit. So that is looking great. We need more psychological horror stuff. Now that Silent Hill is dead and gone forever, we just actually need more good horror. Like Resident Evil's gone in a completely different direction with 7 and now 8, but it looks like it's working despite the fact that it's not traditional RE style. I'm okay as long as it's a good game. So The Medium is a good game, and it may not be the old school tank controls, kind of stuff, but I think that, with a good story, the voice acting that doesn't just make me cringe immediately, all that stuff was done really well. So I definitely want to check the game out myself, but nice to hear that it is doing well. The next Outer Worlds DLC, Murder on Eridanos, God, I probably fucked up pronouncing that so bad, is supposed to be releasing by the end of March. The Outer Worlds DLC, Peril on Gorgon, has actually came out on Switch a few days ago. I still need to jump back into it, see if the Switch version has gotten any, how much better since it's gotten, other than the video we saw from Digital Foundry. Kind of experiencing myself on a personal level how, if it's gotten any better, can I actually play it for a long time on the Switch without, because it looked awful at first. So hopefully it's gotten better from there. And speaking of the Switch, to wrap things up on this very short but special episode with just 2 hosts, because at this point, I think it's very clear that there's literally only be 2 of us, because I'm already done it.
Right.
Shira just walks in right now, I can do a meme at the end. But anyways, first, the Nintendo Switch passed the Wii in sales, because the Wii is one of their successful consoles, or was it the most? I forgot. I just know that the Wii did very good, and the Switch surpassed that already, especially on a time-lapse table of now to, how long this Wii is going to be around. It's going to lap it, basically. It's pretty much going to outsell, if not be the best-selling Nintendo console of all time, because now it has surpassed the 3DS, which for sure was one of their best-selling handheld consoles, if not consoles in general that they make. So they're just passing all these successful things, and it's going to be their 5th-year anniversary, so we'll see where they go from here. Like I said, whatever they're going to do, Switch 2, Switch Pro, whatever they want to do, whether they're going to expand the life of the Switch or just completely succeed it, I think that they have a good platform here, and rather than do the usual Nintendo shenanigans and risk fucking it up, they should just do, the next Switch console should just work like how the Switch does, just maybe with a little more power or whatever you want to add to it. But the thing I really want as a Switch owner, how many games I own there already, is backwards compatibility. I mean, Xbox and PlayStation, Xbox got it last gen, they got it right. PlayStation's kind of trying to figure out backwards compatibility this generation, because they're only able to go back 1 gen, and who knows how many games actually. But with how much I spent on Switch, I think to keep the Switch legacy alive and kind of keep things forward going, especially if you're not going to have that many launch titles like most consoles don't, then make sure to have backwards compatibility on this new console and try to keep the form factor and everything similar, because the Switch is obviously what works, and that's the direction they should go in for a while. So I think maybe even more important than the successor is just that half-step console where it's just an upgrade, and then try to figure it out from there, because I think that the Switch platform is gold where it is right now, and it doesn't necessarily need to be replaced yet, but they definitely need to look into the future of what they're going to do. And I think a whole unit replacement and just throwing the Switch format out of the window would be a very bad idea, because now they have that perfect medium where before you would have your Wii U and then your 3DS if you want to go. Now you got both in one. That should help on production. That should mean that Nintendo's not having to make multiple consoles, multiple console styles. You just the Switch and the Switch Lite, boom, done. You have your choices there. And I think that was just the route that they should go, but we'll see. Nintendo's also made very bad decisions in the past, so I could also see them going the route where they just completely retcon the Switch and just try something new, and it won't do good. Because now that people are used to only having to buy one console that does both of what the previous consoles could do, how are you going to go back and say you try to make the 4DS, and then you got to make the whatever the fuck the console would be called, and now you're going to try to convince people again, oh yeah, this is your at-home-all-the-time console, and this is your handheld to-go console. Yes, 2 of them. When it's now, it's just like, I just remember when I saw the initial presentation of the Switch, I had so many doubts. I did not think it would really work the way it does. I didn't think it was going to actually look as good as it does. And lo and behold, it delivered. And I think that now that Nintendo almost went out of business with the Wii U and was able to rebound this successfully with the Switch, it would be foolish to throw the Switch blueprints out the window already. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But congrats, Nintendo, and that is it for the news this week. We will catch you all. We're going to start being on time because I'm done playing these games, but we're going to discuss that off recording. That's all you guys are going to hear. That very ominous.
So glad to be back, guys.
There you go. All right, y'all. Other than that, we will catch you guys every Monday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. For real this time. And until then, I forgot what I was going to say, so see ya.
Right.